Buckingham Palace has always been the crown jewel of the British monarchy, but few truly understand the staggering scale of its wealth, history, and hidden treasures. Now, with King Charles at the helm, this $5 billion royal residence is being revealed in ways that leave the world speechless. From secret rooms and priceless artifacts to lavish traditions carried out behind gilded doors, the palace holds mysteries most can't even imagine. But what truly lies behind its grand façade? Join us as we explore the mysteries inside King Charles's Buckingham Palace. Inside Buckingham Palace. Before Buckingham Palace became the dazzling symbol of monarchy we know today, even the royal family had to pause for more urgent personal matters. The grand building projects could wait until 1847, when Prince Albert finally began the long renovations that would last 16 years. His vision transformed the old Buckingham House into the iconic palace of 775 rooms. Albert kept the original manor's distinctive conservatory wing, skillfully blending it into a majestic new classical east front. This new façade, crowned with bold balustrades, gave rise to the famous balcony that overlooks the Victoria Memorial and the Mall, an iconic stage where history itself has often unfolded. It was beneath this very balcony in 1939 that a young Princess Elizabeth departed in a glittering royal procession, unaware she was journeying toward a destiny that would place the crown upon her head for over 70 years. But while the world gazes at the gold-leafed gates and the stately courts outside, the real wonders lie within. The very first sight to capture a visitor's breath is the grand staircase, rising in a graceful sweep through 3 full stories. It seems almost weightless, with twin flights curving upward like a double helix, an architectural marvel of balance and beauty. The steps are carved from pale Portland stone, cured for 3 years before cutting to ensure no cracks would mar their surface. Smooth rose-colored marble from the French Pyrenees and pure white Carrara from Tuscany's Apuan Alps were inlaid with delicate stone patterns, their lines sharp against the glowing whiteness. Each step is 6 inches higher than a normal stair, carefully designed so that court ladies wrapped in silks and satins could ascend without stumbling during state ceremonies. Above, a magnificent skylight designed by John Nash lets sunlight pour through stained glass coats of arms created by F.C. Eden in 1849, scattering jewel-like colors across the marble. As one climbs, one cannot help but wonder, what secret dramas, whispered promises, or broken hopes might these stairs have witnessed if stones could speak? Beyond the staircase lie the state rooms, where the true theater of power begins. The throne room, with its crimson silk walls and glittering Waterford crystal chandeliers, overwhelms the senses with majesty. It is here, and in adjoining antechambers, that some of the most important decisions in modern history have been quietly shaped, or impose economic sanctions. Soviet Premier Mikhail Gorbachev discussed glasnost within these walls, while President George Bush Sr. spoke of trade terms. Surrounded by priceless oil paintings from masters like Leonardo da Vinci, these leaders were reminded of centuries of sacrifice and wisdom while planning the future of nations. The royal blue drawing room has welcomed some of the world's most iconic figures. In its glow, Nelson Mandela, newly freed after decades of imprisonment, sat beneath dazzling baccarat chandeliers. That very week he addressed the United Nations, carrying with him the inspiration drawn from this gilded chamber. When Queen Elizabeth met Mandela face to face, clasping his hand with unshakable dignity, the meeting became more than ceremony. It was the quiet triumph of resilience over prejudice, humanity over hardship. And yet, beyond this high diplomacy, the palace is also a place of memory and life. The ballroom rises with cathedral-like grandeur, its vaulted ceilings reaching over 20 feet high. 9 sparkling crystal chandeliers fill the space with light, while tall arched windows open to sweeping views of the private gardens. Here, Prince William and Prince Harry once laughed while chasing stray tennis balls across the lawns. On the ballroom's polished oak floors, Prince Charles practiced his first waltz, learning how to guide young debutantes without stepping on their gowns. Perhaps, behind the marble columns, He even shared an awkward first kiss at a birthday gala. Moments that tied the weight of monarchy to the simple struggles of youth. But the ballroom's floor is more than wood. Laid in parquet, it carries the symbols of the United Kingdom's united heritage: the Rose of England, the Thistle of Scotland, the Leek of Wales, and the Shamrock of Ireland, all crafted in exquisite marquetry. Each motif was carved freehand with mallet and chisel, patiently layered with 30 coats of lacquer until the surface gleamed like glass. Though it seems timeless, the floor itself is only about a century old. Buckingham Palace, then, is not only a home for monarchs, it is a living stage where every stair, every chandelier, every carved emblem carries echoes of history, politics, celebration, and humanity itself. So, how did Buckingham Palace come to be? Let's find out. Origin of Buckingham Palace. As we glide past the towering bronze Victoria Memorial Fountain, it feels almost impossible to picture the quiet countryside that once stood here before Buckingham Palace became the symbol of royal splendor. Long before the winged statue of Victory crowned these grounds, this place was nothing more than a peaceful stretch of land, a retreat where noble gentlemen could escape the crowded, smoky streets of 17th century London to breathe fresh air and enjoy open skies. The very first grand residence to rise here was Arlington House. It was a lavish Jacobean-style mansion created for Sir Edmund Wright, a man ambitious enough to want his home close to the bustling political life of Westminster. The house was designed with elegance, gardens carefully laid out in neat geometric shapes, red brick walls adorned with white sash windows, and 10 tall arched windows opening toward what we now know as Green Park. Sadly, Sir Edmund only lived for about 2 years after moving in, barely having the chance to enjoy the views and prestige of his new estate. After his death, Arlington House passed into the hands of Henry Jermyn, the first Earl of St. Albans, a close friend and confidant of Queen Henrietta Maria, the wife of the executed King Charles I. When her son, Charles II, was restored to the throne in 1660, Henry's fortunes rose swiftly. Already settled in one of London's finest houses, he became a prominent figure in court society. His home soon turned into a gathering place where noblemen and ladies indulged in music, witty conversation, and late-night flirtations. For more than 2 decades, Arlington House was filled with laughter, elegance, and endless chatter. But the merriment ended in 1683, when Henry died. The estate was then taken over by John Sheffield, a little-known baron at the time. His arrival seemed almost ominous. Just 5 months later, smallpox tore through London, killing thousands in an 18-month-long wave of terror. Families abandoned their homes, and the streets of Mayfair grew eerily silent. Yet, inside the fortified brick walls of Arlington House, Sheffield and his household survived relatively unscathed. Some of his staff remained safely sequestered on site, while Sheffield himself often stayed part-time outside the city. By sheer luck, the Baron escaped the worst of the plague that devastated London. When the epidemic finally faded, John Sheffield emerged to find his fortunes transformed. His capable handling of the crisis impressed none other than King Charles II, who rewarded him with both power and prestige. John was made the first Duke of Buckingham and Normanby, granted an apartment at Windsor Castle, and given authority over valuable estates in Ireland. Still, the ambitious Duke chose Arlington House as his main London residence, a place where he could mix politics with high society and grand style. Determined to leave his mark, he remodeled the house with the latest Dutch fashions, decorating fireplaces with Delft tiles, placing marble busts on carved wooden stands, and filling rooms with the finest art and furniture. Arlington House quickly became more than just a noble home. It became a hub for London's intellectual and cultural life. Poets, philosophers, musicians, and painters all gathered here. The philosopher John Locke himself debated his groundbreaking Enlightenment ideas in these very rooms, while the glow of candlelight danced on walls painted in shades of amber and sage. It is astonishing to think that in these same drawing rooms, once filled with music, laughter, and philosophical musings, the fate of an empire would one day be shaped. Neither John Sheffield nor his royal guests could have predicted it at the time. But the house destined to evolve into Buckingham Palace was already beginning its journey into history. How did Arlington House evolve into Buckingham Palace? Let's take a closer look. Transformation of Buckingham Palace. For nearly 80 years, Arlington House stood proudly, barely altered, until at last royal eyes turned toward it once again, ready to transform it into the palace we know today. After the Duke's passing, Arlington House slowly changed owners. It was given to Lord Granville and his family. They made only small updates, but their timing could not have been more perfect. At that very moment, King George II was searching for a fine London home for his beloved wife, Queen Caroline, close to Westminster, the very heart of British politics. The royal couple quickly grew fond of the estate. Its simple charm and peaceful setting were exactly what they wanted. Within just 1 year, the king arranged to buy Arlington House and its grounds permanently from Lord Granville. The property was then given to his son, Prince Frederick, and his wife, Princess Augusta. Together, they introduced modern comforts for the age: running water, heating stoves, and extra bedchambers worthy of royal rank. The house soon sparkled with life. It hosted glittering parties where music filled the air. Guests applauded with joy, unaware that Prince Frederick's promising future would be cut short. His early death cast a heavy shadow over the family. Grief-stricken, King George II expanded the state rooms, preparing them for Frederick's heir, the future King George III. Out of respect, he also allowed Frederick's widow, Augusta, to continue living there in honor of her late husband. Years later, George III himself made Buckingham House his secure base to court. Their affection grew quickly, and soon their children filled the leafy gardens of the estate with laughter. This marks the point where the story takes a more familiar turn. After George III's long and eventful reign, the next great figure to shape the house's destiny was none other than Queen Victoria. Born and raised within its walls, she spent her early years there. Then, on a June morning in 1837, at only 18 years old, she left for Westminster as a princess and returned as Britain's new sovereign. One can only imagine the emotion she felt crossing the threshold. No longer the lonely young girl under watchful eyes, but a crowned queen, greeted by bowing lords and the heavy responsibilities of power. The same private room she had loved as a child now stirred bittersweet memories, both of innocent pleasures and palace intrigues. Yet alongside the sadness, her imagination soared with visions of grand court life and a new role as leader of her people. But Buckingham House, charming as it was, soon proved too small for the needs of a monarch ruling over a vast empire. With her new husband, Prince Albert, by her side, the push for change began. Albert understood deeply that a palace was more than just a home. It was a symbol of national pride, power, and unity. He oversaw ambitious plans to transform their residence into something far greater, a magnificent palace fit for entertaining diplomats, hosting kings and queens from across Europe, and standing as a bold declaration of Britain's wealth and strength. This vision of Buckingham Palace as an unshakable fortress of the empire was born not only from royal taste, but from Albert's pragmatic sense that Britain's image needed to match its global influence, especially at a time when famine struck Ireland, unrest shook Canada, and the horrors of the African slave trade still cried for resolution. From a simple country retreat to the heart of an empire, the story of Buckingham Palace is, at its core, the story of Britain itself, shaped by grief, ambition, and the vision of kings, queens, and their dreams for the future. Was there any alteration to the palace structure? Let's explore. Echoes in the palace. Generation after generation, the British royal household has endured moments of sudden loss and quiet destruction. Strangely, it was not the result of violent coups, bloody wars, or raging fires, but rather something far less dramatic, yet equally relentless: the march of modern technology. When cinema arrived, reels of moving pictures became a royal fascination. Newsreels, film shows, and grand screenings demanded space within the palace. To make way for this new entertainment, priceless corners of heritage were torn away without hesitation. Whole patches of history gave way to novelty, sacrificed so that kings, queens, and courtiers might indulge in the shimmering wonders of film. Today, only replicas or modest tributes remain where monarchs of centuries past once walked on authentic treasures. It is a humbling thought that what we so casually trample beneath our feet may one day be all that posterity longs to preserve. What will future generations say of the things we deemed important? Will they mourn the heritage we exchanged for the latest luxuries, the conveniences we insisted upon at any cost? This very chamber, standing here since 1856, has silently borne witness to spectacles and scandals alike. Its silk-covered walls hold secrets no history book can fully capture. Imagine the dramas that unfolded here like an endless stage play through the ages. Ambitious mothers whispering urgent advice into their nervous daughters' ears, urging them to secure a titled husband before the season turned. Can you not almost hear the joyous laughter and music of gas-lit, pre-war debutante balls? Swirling gowns and glittering jewels spinning until dawn, moments before the thundering guns of war shattered the peace of the countryside? One can almost strain to hear the hushed tones of Winston Churchill conferring with advisors about Adolf Hitler's stalled Eastern campaign, or the grim recitation of merchant ships lost to the seas in that terrible week of war. Perhaps faint echoes remain of Vera Lynn's haunting anthem "We'll Meet Again," sung with trembling voices, bringing bittersweet tears to the eyes of homesick soldiers, sailors, and widows within these glittering halls. But the palace has also witnessed moments of private humanity. Picture obese Queen Victoria hidden behind her Chinese Coromandel screens, summoning the strength to greet officials with royal dignity before collapsing in pain from gout and hemorrhoids. Or imagine Princess Margaret, unable to suppress a girlish giggle as portly chefs wobble dangerously atop ladders, attempting to hang Christmas garlands, only to tumble spectacularly in a scene worthy of comedy. What whispers of scandal and amusement cling still to these walls? Overheard secrets from inebriated lips, discreet trysts in shadowed alcoves, proud voices sneering at dreadful fashions of the day, or whispered mockery of a queen's social blunder. The silk damask that lines these walls has absorbed more than sound. It has absorbed the very essence of royal life, its pomp, its messiness, and its humanity. We will never know all the truths concealed within these chambers, and perhaps that mystery is part of the magic. Behind the grandeur of crowns, the elegance of carriages, and the spectacle of bowing subjects lies something familiar: human lives, as flawed and fragile as our own. Here, monarchs have reigned, making mistakes, enduring scandals, and weaving myths, while an empire's fortunes rose and fell. What mysteries are hidden in the palace? Let's dive in. Secrets of the Palace. Buckingham Palace has stood not only as a symbol of royal power, but also as a private retreat hidden behind its magnificent gates. While the public marvels at the dazzling state rooms during official tours, the real heart of the palace, the private apartments, remains off-limits, veiled in mystery. A narrow, winding staircase, still adorned with faded Flemish tapestries from the 18th century, leads upwards. Passing liveried guards who stand in silent vigilance, one crosses into a world of quiet serenity on the palace's third floor. Here, a cipher crowned with regalia marks the threshold into the personal domain of the sovereign, a world unseen by the millions who press their faces against the gates outside. The weighty, polished oak doors swing silently inward, and at once, the atmosphere changes. Gone are the gilded halls lined with Rubens and Rembrandts. Instead, one finds the warm intimacy of home. The walls are decorated with family photographs, children's crayon drawings, and even finger paint smudges that somehow escape the nanny's sharp eye. The furniture feels lived in. Plush sofas with worn cushions, dog-eared magazines scattered on side tables, and lamps that cast a cozy glow rather than imperial grandeur. This is where the royal family lives, laughs, and rests away from ceremony. Guests who are invited here are not diplomats seeking treaties, but trusted friends seeking quiet counsel. And yet, just beyond a plain oak doorway lies the king's audience chamber, a room steeped in history. Its floral Savonnerie carpets recall the footsteps of Queen Victoria herself, who is said to have paced them anxiously, while her beloved Prince Albert lay dying of a bronchial illness in the nearby Blue Room. The portraits of 19th-century statesmen still hang sternly from the walls, signs of the weighty decisions once made here, dispatches signed and campaigns planned that determined the fate of wars. Today, King Charles III often spends solitary hours in this chamber, surrounded by echoes of his ancestors. Within these walls, he gathers his resolve to guide his nation through uncertain times. Legend has it that a loose floorboard, if stepped upon, may still spring open a hidden latch, revealing secret passageways once used for midnight escapes or whispered trysts of amorous nobles. More often now, the only secret surprise is the king's loyal corgi, fast asleep on a tartan blanket by his desk. Next door, Queen Camilla oversees her correspondence, her letters mending old wounds and weaving delicate threads of diplomacy through aristocratic circles. After the day's work, she may join friends for tea. Delicate cucumber sandwiches, chicken salad, and lemon tarts served on hand-painted Minton china. Along nearby corridors, private suites await royal family members. Princess Anne has her reserved rooms, while Prince Andrew and Sarah Fergie Ferguson may one day find reconciliation in their own quarters. Prince William and Princess Catherine have a separate suite styled in calming blue and white nautical tones, complete with family heirlooms of English oak and walls decorated with childhood photographs of their children, before moving to Windsor for greater privacy. Beneath the palace, still more secrets hide. Few know that a private swimming pool lies discreetly tucked away, first installed by King Edward VI at the dawn of the 20th century. Its sea-green marble walls and painted skylights, filled with cherubic figures modeled after Edward's mistress, the actress Lily Langtry, reflect a more indulgent era. Queen Elizabeth II, however, used the same pool not for pleasure but for exercise, swimming steady laps under its Edwardian glamour. Yet the deepest mysteries lie in the vast basements, sprawling like a hidden city beneath the palace. Here, priceless treasures collected across centuries of empire are stored. Jewel-encrusted thrones from India, gem-studded samovars from Persia, tiaras from China's imperial courts, and more. In one chamber, shelves groan under the weight of 5,000 Fabergé eggs once gifted by Russian czars. In another, masterworks not on public display, Rembrandts, Gainsboroughs, and even rare Leonardo da Vinci sketches rest quietly in shadow. A smaller canvas, a version of Girl with a Pearl, bears no signature, erased centuries ago by overzealous cleaning. Further on, climate-controlled vaults hold the kingdom's written memory, centuries of state papers, diplomatic journals, and personal letters exchanged between monarchs and heads of state. Among the most dazzling treasures is the Royal Philatelic Collection, begun by young Prince Bertie in the 19th century. Drawer after drawer slides open to reveal the complete stamp history of the British Empire in the 19th and 20th centuries, a sight that makes even the most seasoned collectors tremble with awe. What effort was put in place to make Buckingham Palace what it is today? Let's find out. Palace of Hidden Efforts. The story of Buckingham Palace is not just one of stone, marble, and gilded ceilings, but also of the human hearts and hidden labors that gave it life. Within its towering walls and endless corridors, there is a world that many imagine only in fragments. It is a world where royalty and tradition meet daily duty, where the crown rests heavily upon its wearer, and where the unseen efforts of countless hands keep the grand illusion of majesty alive. Take, for instance, King George VI. Before destiny pushed him toward the throne, he was not a man eager for power or pomp. He was a man who found peace in quiet, ordinary things. He loved collecting stamps, a hobby that many might find simple, but for him, it was an act of calm order in a life destined for storm. Each tiny paper square in his album seemed to carry not only a picture, but also a story, an epic of travel, discovery, or faraway kingdoms. Those stamps, though silent, could have told tales of empires and adventures far grander than any royal decree. Yet within the palace gates, the greatest treasures have never been the paintings on the walls, the jewels in the vault, or the priceless tapestries that hang from gilded frames. No, The true value of this palace lies in something far more ordinary and far more precious. It rests in the quiet, day-by-day stewardship of those who keep the rhythm of royal life steady. The world sees the palace in glittering moments, coronations, royal weddings, state banquets. But beyond those displays lies the heart of its greatness, the devotion of people who serve without recognition. Advisors sit in shadowed rooms, carrying the weight of difficult decisions. Servants hover quietly nearby, ready to warm a teacup even at the latest hour. Clerks guard secrets sealed in envelopes, secrets that, if revealed, could have shaken the trust of nations or fed the endless appetite of the press. Yet they took these delicate truths with them to the grave, choosing loyalty over scandal. Even the palace chaplain was never truly off duty. He could be woken in the middle of the night, asked to offer a sacred sacrament in private because the sovereign's butler had quietly whispered of an urgent need. These unseen moments, rarely celebrated in grand history books, are what make the palace more than just a building. They reveal a hidden nobility, not of crowns and thrones, but of service, sacrifice, and devotion. But life within the palace also brought a strange and heavy loneliness. The grand halls, lined with portraits of rulers past, were walked by few outside the royal circle. Fame's spotlight is bright, but it also blinds, creating an isolating bubble. For the royal family, this meant that while they were envied for their power and privilege, they were also bound by invisible chains. Every move was watched, every word measured, every gesture judged. The cost of living in such a world was the loss of spontaneity, the freedom to simply be oneself without caution. It was only in rare, wise moments that a ruler could break through that solitude. A monarch learns, in time, that light and shadow exist together, that one cannot stand without the other. Strength, dignity, and even joy come not from standing above others, but from reaching out to them. And so, behind closed doors, a king or queen might open their arms to a stranger, whether friend or rival, showing that virtue runs deeper than pride or position. Such gestures, though small, carried enormous meaning. They created moments of unity where none had seemed possible. They planted seeds of trust, fragile at first, but capable of growing into something lasting. No decree, no proclamation from a throne, not even the signature of a queen herself, could compel such trust. It had to be earned through humility, kindness, and a willingness to embrace others beyond the glitter of the crown. Thus, the palace, though built on unlikely grounds and wrapped in the splendor of royalty, stands not merely as a monument to power, but as a living royal heritage. So, what do you think about King Charles's $5 billion Buckingham Palace? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Don't forget to like and subscribe.